So the Rugby World Cup 2023 kicks off this week. I'm super excited. Yes, it's a bit of a hype video, but I want to qualify the statement that this is going to be the best Rugby World Cup ever. If you haven't already got involved in the channel, please do click on subscribe, like the videos, that would be amazing. If you haven't already entered the free draw for custom rugby artwork like behind me, click on the link below. And if you haven't already got involved in the official World Rugby fantasy game, please do get involved in our league. That's the Rugby Analyst and Egg Chasers League. Click on the link below. That would be amazing. I think we're near 1,000 players. Okay, let's get straight into this. Why do I think this one's going to be the best World Cup? Well, first of all, very simply, the Rugby World Cup is young. By any measure of major world events, major sporting events, it's very young. Starting in 1987, it's only the 10th edition, and major events generally take time to grow. I mean, the Olympics, the modern Olympics, started in 1896, not the ancient Greek ones, and it's had 29 goes, and it's grown to huge size, and probably is actually levelling out now in what it can actually do. The Football World Cup started in 1930 and it's had 22, and that continues to grow. They could even add more and more teams because there's so many good international football teams these days. But however you rate the success or how good a Rugby World Cup is, whether it's size, quality of play, spectator numbers, TV coverage, commercial revenue, well, it already grows naturally as it iterates from its start. And I think that Rugby World Cup is very young, and just by natural growth, it's going to be better anyway. Point number 2. It's in France. Now, the 2019 tournament was a great success going to Japan, not a traditional centre of rugby, not a big rugby country, but goodness me, it was great. But this year, it is in one of the biggest, wealthiest, most established rugby nations on earth, France. And when you combine point 1 with the sheer size, reach and money and scope of the tournament in France, it should eclipse 2019. I mean, even France's location is pretty good, as many major rugby playing nations are within easy travelling distance. And even those that are not, say in the Southern Hemisphere, your New Zealand, Australia, South Africa's, well, there's a big expat community in France and in the countries around it. Point 3, the world is catching up. Things are evening out. We've heard this phrase before, but I think we're going to 100% see it in this World Cup more than ever. I mean, in the early days of professional rugby, it was dominated by the 3 Southern Hemisphere giants, New Zealand, Australia, South Africa. They were undisputed kings. The European nations were still kind of stuck in that amateur era, structurally, mentally, if you like. Then as coaches started to spread around the world, that Southern Hemisphere ethos started to spread around the world, and the Europeans kind of caught on to the blinding obvious they needed to catch up to where the game was. The Northern Hemisphere slowly started to wake up and embrace those modern concepts, physical fitness, emphasis on higher skill level for all players, and just being generally more professional and businesslike. Then they've slowly started to get parity, and I think we've seen the 5 major European nations, France, England, Ireland, Wales and Scotland, at different times have parity with the Southern Hemisphere 3. At this point, you'd say the big ones are France, Ireland and Scotland, the pick of the Europeans at the moment. But yeah, they have caught up as well, although things, of course, fluctuate. But now I believe we're firmly in an exciting third phase where the smaller nations, those non-traditional nations as well, have become much more serious in moving into professionalism. They've had a few years at it. For example, Italy joined the Six Nations quite a while ago. They've got their domestic sides in the URC, and they've really developed their youth pathway, their under-20s pathway, up to the level of the other countries, and it's really starting to pay dividends. I mean, Japan, they brought their economic might to bear and established a really well-funded domestic league, and their national team is now a serious threat. Georgia have almost put their whole nation, all their weight literally behind excelling in the sport of rugby, and they're getting better and better. And we've seen an explosion in the competitiveness of the Pacific Islands, and I think they're going to be really, really strong in this World Cup. I mean, the Pacific Islands, say Tonga, Fiji, Samoa, they've always been a hotbed of extreme physical talent and rugby enthusiasm in the culture, but they didn't have that professional basis of domestic players. But now they do, with 2 fully professional domestic teams ever, first time ever, Fijian Drua, Moana Pacifica, just absolutely a game changer for them, I think. You know, they've only been going a little bit, so they're going to get better and better. But the extra kicker was the change in the World Rugby eligibility laws, where previously internationally capped players can change their nationality once, the idea being going back to their nationality of birth or origin, if you like. They can change their allegiance once as long as they haven't played for the other nation in 3 years. And this new rule has definitely opened the door, particularly for Pacific Island players, to return to their home countries, if you like. For example, Charles Piutau, Malachi Fekitoa playing for Tonga after previously being capped a while ago by New Zealand. Now, this in itself is another reason why the World Cup's going to be better, because there are just more top players in this World Cup due to that change in eligibility. And these nations are going to continue to improve to the levels where they are getting consistent wins over those traditional big sides, and it's starting to happen. Now, there is going to be a fourth stage, but that's not what this video is about. Maybe when we look towards the World Cup, say in the USA, they are the ones that, if they can weaponise their already established economic might and professional sporting structures into rugby, they could really go somewhere. They're not there yet, but there definitely is another stage to go, and we'll definitely see this third stage really start to bear fruit as it goes through, but we'll see it in this World Cup, I believe. And finally, what I was hinting at in the thumbnail, the draw. Now, we all know that the Rugby World Cup draw was made far too early, and we've got the best 5 sides in the world in pools A and B in that top half of the draw: Ireland, South Africa, France, New Zealand, Scotland. They are changing that draw system for next time, but it does give us actually some benefits that maybe we haven't fully considered. In the previous World Cups, I would say the pools are much easier to predict. You can say which 2 teams are going to go through. This time, I don't think that is the case. So let's start with the pools. Pool A: New Zealand, France, Italy, Uruguay, Namibia. Now, yeah, this is one pool where we can probably admit that New Zealand and France are going through, but the kicker in this pool is the beginning game. Now, the opening game always involves the host nations, but previously it's not been the biggest game. For example, we had Japan-Russia last time, Italy-Fiji when Fiji weren't overly competitive against England in 2015, and 2011 New Zealand-Tonga. Yeah, all good games in there, right, but nothing on this first game. It's opening with France, the host, versus New Zealand, 2 of the best sides in the world. Could even be a World Cup final. What a way to start. That's the way to get going. What I'm getting at in this video is this tournament starts with a bang and the excitement goes the whole way through. Then on to the big one, Pool B, the pool of death. South Africa, Ireland, Scotland, Tonga, Romania. It's an absolute doozy. Now, if we get past the fact that, yes, it is unfair, in itself it's like a mini world-class tournament. So amazing jeopardy right from the off in the pool stages. You don't have to wait to the later stages. Someone's going to get knocked out at this stage from one of those 3. So you've got 3 massive games in there, and then they can't take their foot off the pedal. If they rest too many players against Tonga, they could come unstuck there as well. I mean, poor Romania is going to find this tough for sure, but that Pool B is like a mini World Cup in itself. I mean, we're going to lose one of those big teams for sure. So more excitement there. Then on to Pool C and D, and yes, this is the easier side of the draw. Pool C: Wales, Australia, Fiji, Georgia, Portugal. But again, put the fairness thing to the side, and what we really get is 2 really well matched pools. Pool C, Fiji could well be the big story, as I've said before in my videos. I'm just not being bitter that they beat England, honest, but I generally see they've got that talent to beat anyone in the world, and now they've got that professional core of players. Georgia, yeah, they're a professional outfit, but I'm not quite seeing enough top players for them to take them through. But certainly between Australia, Wales and Fiji, you know, it's really, really strong. It's really, really close. And if those sides risk too much and maybe rest and rotate too much against Georgia, then they could pounce. But certainly those 3 matches between the 3 big 3 there, Australia, Wales and Fiji, again, a bit like Pool B, but on a slightly lower level, like a mini tournament in itself. Just huge games, compelling viewing. England, Japan, Argentina, Samoa, who's going to go through? You'd probably say Argentina are favourites, but any of those 4, I think, could beat anyone. So really, really interesting there. We're not sure who's going through. So in all these pools, apart from Pool A, you just can't pick it. And Pool A's got the kicker of that opening match. So amazing pools, even though, yes, the draw was not fair. And then if you go on to the knockouts, due to the lopsided draw, then actually we still get really big matches in the quarters. In past World Cups, we've had quarterfinals that we could probably predict a lot of them. In this one, we can't. We're going to see, again, probably the 4 top teams in the world, or 4 of the top 5 teams in the world going at it in that top half of the draw, and then very close games as well, closely matched games in the bottom half of the draw. So, in short, why is this going to be the best World Cup in the world? Because more high quality players, more high quality teams, more competitive pools with early jeopardy, more chance of traditional big nations losing to the smaller nations, in quotes there, and closer quarterfinals than normal. So right from the beginning, it's going to be an absolute barn burner, and all set in the hotbed of rugby, France, with great infrastructure, facilities, etc. It's going to be an absolute thrilling ride. Buckle up, it's going to be amazing. Comments below on what you expect from this World Cup, and I'll catch you next time.